Hi guys, I'm going to show you a modern deck today, but one that looks like an historical deck based on the old Tarot Bolognese, or the tarot from the city of Bologna. This is called the Great Parade, and it's made by Ian Cumpstey, an English artist whose work I really love. I've got a bunch of decks by him, including the Rare Triumphs, which I showed you on the channel before. Now this is a Latin suited deck, being based on the Tarot Bolognese, and so the suits are swords and clubs, or buttons, and then cups and coins. So this is a suit of swords. In Italian playing card decks, generally the swords are curved, whereas the batons are straight, so that you can tell them apart. So we've got the 10 suit cards, and then we've got the jack, the knight, a queen, and a king. In the suit of cups, this is the ace of cups, the 2, 3, and so on. Like in a lot of Italian traditional decks, 2 of the jacks are actually female, or rather than jacks, you can call them pages if you're used to cartomantic decks. So here, for example, the page of cups, the jack of cups, is a woman, and then you've got the knight, the queen, and the king, like the other suits. On the ace of coins, Ian has included a hare and hound. Now, I cannot remember what the significance of that is, but he did explain it somewhere. I'll have to drop him a line and include a little note later on explaining what that is. Then, the same as the suit of cups, the jack in the suit of coins is also female. And then the knight, the queen, and the king. Ian did all of the artwork for this deck in watercolors, painting them at the actual size. So he didn't paint them at a bigger size and then shrink them down. He's actually made playing card size figures of each one and painted them individually. Then in the suit of clubs, we got the ace, 2, 3, and so on. In Italian, this suit's called bastoni. Some people prefer to call it battens, wands, if you know, like in cartomantic decks, like fortune-telling decks and so on. I tend to say clubs just the same as in English, but obviously in a northern Italian style like this one, they're sort of straight batons. And then we've got the jack, knight, queen, and king again. As a little bonus, Ian has included a card which explains what order the trumps in the deck go in the Bolognese tradition. I'll talk more a little bit about that later on. Let's have a look at the trumps. The first one I'm putting out is the Fool, recognizable with his jester's hat, trumpet, and drum. Then we've got the Bagatto in Italian, or Begato in Bolognese dialect. That's the one that people call the magician in a fortune teller's deck. The name Ian prefers for this card is actually the Trickster, because what he's actually portrayed as is like a street performer, doing tricks for people. Popes, Papes, however it's pronounced, and then we've got an Empress, the Emperor, and the Pope. Now, in a modern Tarot Bolognese deck, you don't have these 4 cards, or rather you do, but instead of it being an Emperor and an Empress and a Papus and a Pope, it's actually 4 Moors. This was back to about 1775. They switched over to being 4 Moors. And the Moors aren't in any particular rank order, and neither were these 4 cards in the traditional games that were played with this deck. Those 4 cards, Emperor, Empress, and Papus and Pope, were of equal value. Now the next one after that, we've got the Lovers, the Chariot, and then we've got Justice, who is blind, holding her sword and the scales. We've also got Temperance. Now, one thing that you'll notice is he hasn't numbered them. He's included a little card to say what order they're supposed to be in, but different traditions would actually order the trumps in different ways, depending who was doing it, which game it was, and so on and so forth. So they make a nice little group here, the 3 virtues of temperance, justice, strength. Strength in a lot of decks, if you're used to fortune-telling decks, you might be expecting strength to be holding the lion by the jaws. But in a lot of the old Tarot Bolognese decks, it was actually the woman holding the pillar of strength, which may or may not be broken. Leading on from that, we have the Wheel of Fortune, which is also the one that's on the box. Then Time, who in the French tradition is usually called the Hermit, but it's basically Father Time, or it's called the Old Man. Again, it depends. Il Vecchio is a common name for him in Italy. Then the Hanged Man, the Downfall, and then Death, riding a white horse. The next card's the Devil, following on from Death. And then the Tower, or in Italian tradition also often called the Thunderbolt, La Saetta. In another deck I'll show you later on, in the Sicilian Tarot, Tarocco Siciliano, the Tower is also featured, but it's not broken or it's not being attacked by the thunderstorm. Then, almost to the end, we've got the three celestial ones, the star, the moon, and the sun. So the star has the three wise men following the star to see Jesus. The moon has two people with various tools for measuring astronomical distances. And then under the sun, we've got the woman who is spinning wool. All three of these are more or less the same still in the modern Tarocco Bolognese as well. And then finally, the big two in the deck. We've got the world using the same kind of imagery that he included for Eternity in the Rare Triumphs deck. And then the angel, the divine judgment. Now this is one, in fortune telling decks, most people these days, most tarot decks, the highest one is the world, il mondo in Italian. But in a lot of Italian tarot games, actually the angel, the divine judgment, is the highest one. So there you have it. If you want to see more of Ian's work, you can find his website at northerndisplayers.co.uk. If you want to contact me, learntarotcardgames@gmail.com. I can invite you to the Discord if you want to learn to play some of the games that you play with decks like this. Thanks.